Okay, so you joined me today. Bit of a different setting. Hopefully, it's not too loud and not a lot of background noise. Thought I'd do a quick update on something I saw over the weekend. Some news that has come out, or rumors, let's say, that have come out of Japan from Best Car magazine, which is around Toyota's possible revival of the MR2. Now, I'm not so much excited for the MR2, I think, as I am for kind of the direction that Toyota is going in, right? So if you just take a step back quickly and you look at where Toyota was compared to what they're doing today, it's a completely different outlook on cars and what they represent and what they mean for the end consumer. So Toyota has always been about reliability, right? It's always been about sort of the cheaper or cheapest option that you can get, but the most reliable. And that's always been their focus point, is value and reliability to the consumer, right? Having said that, they've also probably made one of the most boring, or not one of, but the majority of their cars have been somewhat boring, I guess you would say, for the average motoring enthusiast over the last, let's say, call it decade, 2 decades or so, right? The Toyota Corolla wasn't the best looking car, it wasn't the most exciting looking car, the Camry, the RAV4, etc. So it's kind of been this super reliable, dependable car, manufacturer as a whole, but not the most exciting looking cars and not the most exciting driving cars, right? I think the direction that they've taken in recent times, or the change in direction rather, has been a welcome one that I think the car community is appreciating, right? So if you look at, first of all, the revival of the Supra, the GR Supra, or let's say, the Gazoo Racing sort of arm or brand of Toyota. I know that Supra is still controversial, big shoes to fill compared to the Mark IV, and a lot of the people felt that the Mark V really didn't meet that mark in terms of what they were wanting. However, I still feel that it was a good stepping stone to get to where we are now, and I still feel it's a good car, right? It's sharing a really solid motor, the B58, with BMW. It's become modernized in the interior, it looks Japanese, and I think a lot of people undersell that point, right? Is that when you look at Japanese cars, let's say as a whole, I'm not going to dive into specifics, because obviously you've got arms like, Lexus, that is more luxurious than, let's say, for example, Nissan or Honda maybe. But as a whole, even these sporty cars from Toyota or from other Japanese car manufacturers weren't the nicest interiors, right? So yes, now, for example, even though the GTR has been in production for years and years and is much overdue for replacement, the current interior that's in the latest model is much nicer than one that came out in the early 2000s. So yes, it has improved, but overall it's not on the same level as the German sort of luxury car brands, and that's what they offer, right? They're luxury car manufacturers. So I think for me the Toyota Supra, and I'm digressing here completely, but I think the Toyota Supra gives you that really nice stepping stone or blend into the new Toyota, in terms of you've got obviously an interior and drivetrain, etc., that's shared from BMW. So you're getting that sort of luxury aspect, and then the designing is undoubtedly Japanese, right? So you're still getting really good Japanese look and feel within the step up in sort of luxury and performance that comes with the shared platform. So I think that was kind of the one that set the direction for the path that Toyota was going to follow. Then you've had Toyota come out and really take a stab at revitalizing the hot hatch market, and specifically their consumer base, being Toyota fans, with their performance cars being the GR Yaris and then the GR Corolla, right? And a lot of people may think that the GR Corolla is not really worth it if you've got the GR Yaris. Some markets don't get either one, right? So I think depending on where you are, it's still a really interesting or good proposition that Toyota has, right? So you've got the GR Yaris that's obviously based on, the rally car, 3-cylinder, 1.6 turbo, fantastic platform in terms of driving, in terms of output, in terms of that 50-50 sort of drivetrain split that you can do, so you can go 50% rear, forward, all-wheel drive, that sort of thing, manual. And I think in a small performance hatch like that, I think it's really kind of going back to what an hot hatch should be, right? And I don't think anybody's doubting the fun factor of the GR Yaris. And then they've taken it a step forward and done it to the Corolla, right? And the Corolla now, probably for the first time in decades, looks really, really menacing. It looks really, really aggressive, especially if you're looking at the GR Corolla with all the bits and bobs and the motor and that sort of thing. I think that's the right thing to do. I think it's giving the automotive community who are want something a bit spicier, who are really into their cars, that are into the vehicles, that want to drive, that want to experience the thrill of driving, something to look forward to, within the backing of the big reliability of Toyota. Where previously you kind of just got the Corolla, no matter what it looked like, what it sounded like, what it drove like, because you wanted it to be dependable, right? You're kind of blending that mix of both now, which is really nice. Then you start looking at other cars, and obviously GR per se has become a lot like, I guess, what M and AMG have become to a lot of the other car manufacturers, or the S line in terms of Audi. So you've got your big M3, M4, M5, M2, whatever it may be cars, and then you got the M lights, right? The 340, M340i, M240i, etc., which is supposed to be, I guess, a light version, not a full hardcore M package. And then you kind of get that filtering down, and the same thing with the AMGs, right? So you can get a C200 or whatever it is AMG line, right? So it's not a true AMG, it doesn't have the brakes or the performance or the handling, but you're getting maybe bits of pieces of styling or whatever it may be, right? So it's watered down a bit, let's put it that way. And I think what it allows brands to do is give the consumer, and I'm not saying I'm all for trying to hit mass market in terms of cars, because that's where the money is, right? Not everybody's going to buy a GR Yaris or GR Corolla, so you kind of need to make money off your mass market items, which then kind of allows car manufacturers to go and make them more, lesser volume or lesser production numbers in terms of something a bit more special, which is kind of what's going on now. So I understand that, and I'm all for that. I think with GR kind of taking a similar approach now, so you've kind of seen GR filtering into the Hilux pickups or Utes or Buckies, wherever you are in the world, Corolla Crosses. So they've kind of taken this GR brand, like a lot of the other car manufacturers have done with their sort of high-end performance category, or high-end performance car, and sprinkled it across the other cars in the range. And I think it's not a bad thing. I think it brings excitement as a whole in terms of what Toyota's doing. Like we mentioned with the Supra and the Corolla and the GR Yaris, you're almost getting a sporty car at every price point for every type of car that you're buying, right? So you're getting a really small hatchback, you're getting what Corolla would be, I guess, your normal sort of small hatchback car. You've then got the Supra, which is a two-door sort of sports car, and you even look at the styling cues that have come out of these cars, right? Especially if you guys look at the new Prius that has come out, and there's been pictures circulating on the internet of it with various body kits, and the way it looks really, really aggressive. And I mean, the Prius has probably been the most boring designed car that you probably would have ever seen, and in Toyota's lineup, and that's something to be said, to something that looks really, really menacing, where you're kind of going, wow, what engine, should that have, right? We know it's all electric car, but just the aggressiveness of it kind of makes you think like, wow, that could be a really good sports car, right? Or performance vehicle. So I think the styling is really coming on point from Toyota. I think the way that they're approaching, offering motoring enthusiasts a more performance orientated version is really, really good. And then that kind of comes down now to the rumors, or touches base on the rumors of the new Toyota MR2 that's rumored to be coming out, right? Which is MR2, I guess, would be Japan's, I'm trying to think, probably Japan's first mid-engined car, right? Various engines from, I guess, the first generation right up until when it was discontinued. Wasn't a particularly high-powered vehicle. Again, like a lot of the Japanese cars, it was a lot around the handling and the styling at the time and things like that. So that was discontinued. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of the Toyota MR2. Till today, it's not really something that I aspire to own or aspire to drive. I'll be also the first one to say I haven't driven one, so I could be completely wrong. But it doesn't really excite me that much as opposed to, for example, other cars, being released or being announced. What I am excited for, though, is seeing Toyota continue the trend that they have been in bringing out more performance-based vehicles for the enthusiasts, right? So you've got the Corolla, you've got the Yaris, you've got the Supra, you now have got the MR2, which is supposedly coming back. Again, rumored to be sharing or testing using the Yaris possible platform. So it could be using sort of the same, 1.6 turbocharged 3-cylinder motor, which will be then mid-engined, which could make a really good proposition. It's turbocharged, you're going to have a bit more torque, you're going to have good power if they're able to keep it light. And kind of from the renders that you're seeing now, although that's obviously not official, it's not done by Toyota, it looks really, really good. And I think, again, it brings excitement into that category in reviving these old sort of yesteryear performance named cars that a lot of the, I guess, automotive industry really enjoyed at the time. And then it kind of builds on additional rumors where possibly Toyota is also bringing back the Toyota Celica, right? I don't know if these type of cars will be limited production numbers, whether they will be specific, for example, to the Japanese market only or different parts of the world. We don't know all of that, but I think it's moving in the right direction in terms of reviving these old these old heritage named vehicles into a modern package. And I think it also just makes sure that Toyota can be more than what they were. Yes, they've always been reliable. Yes, they've always been known for that. But there's no need to be reliable and be boring and dull looking, right? And that's kind of what they're proving now, is that you can have something that looks really good, that's got performance, that appeals to the car enthusiast, and at the same time is super reliable. You get that Toyota badge of reliability with it, right? And so I think Toyota is moving in the right direction, and that's what excites me, is that you've seen all of these cars come out, and there's been big talk on, for example, the various GR models don't make money and will they be discontinued and things like that. But if Toyota push forward and bring out these other models, it basically just ensures that they're still committed to it. And I think it forces again the other car manufacturers to kind of step up the game and do the same thing. One of my gripes that have been with Honda has been their lack in doing this, which I guess, to be fair, Toyota was also lacking for a really long time, as well as other car manufacturers in the Japanese market like Mitsubishi and Nissan, is that you've got such big heritage branded, brand cars from yesteryear, and I don't think they're utilizing the potential that can bring in terms of excitement into the consumer base and into the market. And this road is terrible. And I've completely lost what I was saying. I don't think that they're utilizing example, they've always had the Type R. Type R got car of the year, so that's really impressive. Still making a really great car, so very happy about that. But there's a big opportunity for them. I know they've brought back the Integra now. Is the Integra what everybody thought the Integra would be? I don't think so. I think it still looks really good. I think it's still a really interesting and good proposition. I don't think it kind of lives up to the original, I guess, life of what the Integra was, especially now where you've got, the Type R being a four-door car, where traditionally, depending, it was, four-door, two-door, whatever it may be. So, like, for example, the FN2 was, traditionally a two-door vehicle. Then you kind of had, I guess, the FKs, which kind of dabbled in the four-door part, and then, that's kind of become the trend now. So, for me, there's a big opportunity there for Honda, kind of building on what Toyota has done and revitalized these exciting cars, is for them to is kind of for them to come back and make these name branded cars. So you've got your Type R, which can be your four-door super hot hatch car. Get the Integra to be the two-door version of that, right? It can have its own styling. It can have even a shared motor, let's say. Put it in a two-door format, spice up the interior, and even have that as the two-door Type R, Civic Type R option, right? That would also be exciting. You've got the Honda S2000, which hasn't been made since, the early to mid 2000s. And I guess the prices of those on the used market reflect what people think of them, right? People really love them. You had, that sort of 4-pot motor, rear-wheel drive, manual, convertible, sort of timeless styling, a really, really popular car. And you kind of think with where Honda is today, with the engines they're making, and the performance cars they're making, especially with the Type R, why not just take that motor? And I understand, the K20 versus, sort of the F20 at the time, and the different motors. And if we're saying we don't feel that perhaps there's a big enough market for Honda to develop a whole new drivetrain, use the existing Type R motor, stick it in there, make it rear-wheel drive manual. You don't need to reinvent the whole car. I think give people the simplicity or the setup that they want, which is rear-wheel drive. You can have a manual option, you can have a auto option, and I think look at what technology is being made available at the time, right? So you've got the Golf R, you've got the Audi RS3, you've got the Mercs that have now all got switchable all-wheel drive or biased all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive systems, right? More so maybe true rear-wheel drive systems than others. For example, in the M3s, as opposed to sort of the lower-end hot hatch Mercs and hot hatch VWs and Audis. But the technology now is there that wasn't there before. So for me, the new S2000, if you're not going to develop a new motor for it, stick the current Type R motor in there. Have the option of a manual gearbox, have the option of whatever the auto DCT equivalent looks like, which is the same thing that's kind of happened with the Lotus Emira, right? Manual and auto option. Stick the Type R motor in there, and then stick in, sort of that, develop, a switchable rear-wheel drive system. So you're then going to have the all-wheel drive performance or livability year-round for the S2000, new S2000. You're going to have the option to switch it to rear-wheel drive, which gives you that excitement and that sort of pure driving enthusiasm that people want. And then you can make it, a convertible as well, kind of like what the Z4 is. And I think that would do really well, and I think people would appreciate that. And I think those missed opportunities from Honda is what I'm really looking for them to come out and step into, much like how Toyota have stepped up into kind of the modern time, right? So like we said, with this the Celica coming out, you've got the Supra, the Yaris, the Corolla, the MR2. Let's look at Honda to do the same thing with the Integra, to do the same thing with the S2000. And you look at the NSX, right? It's got sort of this really popular legend history around the original NSX, and the new NSX came out, and yes, perhaps it was a technological forward in performance and what it offered and the way it looked, it didn't really take off as I guess people thought it would, and a lot of people have been disappointed in what that car could have been or should have been. And I don't think it's the end all, right? I think learn from that and take one more stab at it, right? You know now what people want from the old one. You know what was successful in the new one, what didn't work in the replacement, and try and fix that and develop something that really stands out. And it's the same thing. If Toyota are able to apply a GR treatment across the range, why can't Honda apply a Type R treatment across the range? And I'm going on a rant here because this is what the topic of today is for me, ranting on Japanese car manufacturers, right? The Accord, you've got the Accord, old Accord, K24 motors, K20s, manual 6-speed V6s, really good platform, in terms of a sedan to do something exciting there. Whether you're putting a Type R engine in, whether you're developing a spicy V6 for it, there's so much opportunity for you to do a Type R. The same thing with the Jazz platform. We've seen VW do it back in the day with the Polo GTI, right? Now they've got the Up GTI. They kind of followed after it. Why can't Honda bring out a Jazz or a Fit, whatever it's called now, equivalent of something small that's a little bit spicy, that's a little bit fun to drive? And I understand the market for the Jazz or the Fit is not that kind of consumer, but I think that Toyota has proved that if you're able to develop something really unique, there is people that would buy it, and it kind of just brings excitement and brings people back into the brand. So it brings in a new audience and a new consumer base, and you've heard me talk a lot about that on this channel, about Formula One or different manufacturers and bringing in new audiences, because that's where the future of all businesses, especially the automotive industry, will lie in the future, right? EVs, you need to understand, the new generation maybe don't like sort of the gasoline combustion vehicles of yesteryear that we do. They may like the EV cars and what it has to offer and the technology based around that. And if you want your car manufacturer, and I'm going again on a complete tangent, if you want your car manufacturing company to survive, you obviously need to be able to adapt and reach in and pull those consumers in, and that's a different topic of discussion. But I feel that if you're opening up the enthusiast driving route, you bring people into the brand as a whole. And I'll give you an example, right? I'm driving now a Honda CR-V, right? When I had my Type R, if you have that as your sort of fun daily sports weekend car, track car, whatever you want to call it, and you need a family car, and you're really enjoying the Type R, you probably buy a Honda CR-V, right? And it's a similar thing. If you've got a really spicy, I don't know, M3 or M2, let's say you bought an M2, and you need a family car, you can buy X3, you can go buy a X3 M40i, you can buy X5, whatever it may be, with the big motors, or even if you just go for the diesel options, you're still staying within that brand because it caters for your needs, right? And that's kind of what I'm saying, is have different variants that will pull the enthusiasts to buy your car, but then will also take them into different segments within your manufacturing sort of lineup, right? So Accord can definitely benefit from that. I feel like the Fit and Jazz could definitely benefit from that. The Integra again. You look at the S2000, bring back a S2000. I agree, a NSX may be a very hard sell in today's market, given where performance cars have gone and where supercars have gone. So you look at the likes of Ferrari, you look at the likes of McLaren, you look at the likes of Lamborghini in terms of what they offer. Even Audi, okay, they've discontinued the R8 now, but those sort of sports or supercars, it's going to be very hard to match that, right? Which is also, I feel, the big problem for the new GTR, to kind of step up to that plate, which we'll talk about in another video. So I agree, it may be very difficult to go after those cars and very expensive, and I also agree it's very difficult for it to be placed as a sports or performance car, where you've got the likes of the M3, you've got the likes of the M4, you've got the likes of the C63s, that are family-based cars on 3 Series, 4 Series, C-Class sedans that have got switchable all-wheel drive systems, that are making huge amounts of power, that if you modify them are running 11 seconds, etc., etc. And so I understand even bringing out an NSX dedicated sports car may be difficult to even compete with those cars, let alone the supercars, and I guess the financial investment to build that may not be worthwhile. I get that, and that's why I'm saying if not the NSX, that's fine. I still feel like you can start off as Toyota have done and feed into the different other markets or the other streams, right? So start off with the Honda Fits, the Jazz, start off with the Accords, do a R line or something like that. And I'm not a fan of those sort of AMG lines, whatever it may be, but in this case do it to the CRV or whatever small hatchback that you want to make look spicy and super aggressive and that sort of thing, just to bring back excitement into the car, into the brand. Same thing with Mitsubishi, right? Mitsubishi had this legend around rally racing and the Mitsubishi Evos and all the generations that were really a success, and then you killed off the brand, right? Well, not the brand, sorry, you killed off the car in terms of the Evo. And there's rumors of it returning as a EV, SUV, whatever it may be. I'm saying there's so much opportunity for you again to kind of go after that market. Do the same thing that the RS3, that the Golf R has done. Get in an all-wheel drive system because that's what they were known for. Make it switchable so you have fun. Basically like what the GR Yaris has done. Do a modern day version of a bigger sedan GR Yaris with a bigger engine suitable for sedan body styling. Big turbos, lots of power, in a hybrid assist, and I think you've got the new Evo, right? And again, I think there's just such a missed opportunity across manufacturers, and Nissan's a bit of an interesting one, and we'll chat about the GTR in maybe another video. And they've got the new Z out, and where does that fit and what does that replace? But I think as a whole, the Japanese manufacturers have really been lacking, which is disappointing for me, where they really made a surge, I guess, in the 90s, early 2000s, in terms of offering competitive cars. We're not talking about Lexus now, because Lexus also, even with the ISFs, which again they haven't made an ISF for quite a while. I've got terrible glare behind me. They haven't made an ISF in a while, and I think it's going to be very difficult to make an ISF given the level of the current M3, M4s and Mercs today. But it also hasn't ever been up to that mark performance-wise, right? It's never ever been as agile or as bigger performance as those cars. So it's always been a bit of a harder sell. Not to say that it has its unique points. You've got the LC500, which I guess is the cruiser, the V8. Naturally aspirated. They've stuck to where all the others have gone forced induction. So yes, there's a unique proposition there, but it's never competed. I guess dynamically is the word I'm looking for compared to those other vehicles. And I'm going on a tangent and a rant. This is basically me just ranting about. I think there's so much more opportunity that the Japanese manufacturers could be doing in bringing us exciting cars that are bringing us something to look forward to from a driving perspective. And I am a fan of Japanese cars, right? Because that's what I've been driving, and so it's just frustrating for me to experience this. And I think all kudos, the European manufacturers have really stepped up. And I don't even think stepped up, I think they've stepped above and beyond. They've put such a big gap in the market in terms of what their product offering is giving you in terms of a unique proposition, that I think it's going to take Japanese manufacturers a big step forward to catch up or even compete competitively at that level. And that's my frustration, is that they were doing that for some time. It kind of fell off the map, and I'm kind of saying, well, why can't it make a resurgence? And I understand the world is changing, and we're going to EVs and hybrids and hydrogen, and SUVs are the biggest sellers. I understand that, but I also think that if you look at what the other brands are doing in the market, it shows that there's still a want and a demand, and people are still willing to pay for something special. Whether it's a M2, whether it's a M3, whether it's a GT3 or a GT3 RS, whether it's a Black Series, whether it's a GR Yaris right down at the bottom. If it's something special and unique, you are still going to find people that want those cars. So go and make a run-of-the-mill car to make your money. People will still buy a car if it's good enough. And I think that's basically my rant. It's just for the Japanese manufacturers to step up their game. And it makes it very difficult. You know, when I spoke about looking to buy another car, and I always look at the Japanese options, you know, the Lexus and, you know, what those have to offer, and the Subarus and Mitsubishis, etc. And there isn't really anything that grabs you as the way the European cars grab you, know, in terms of performance, what they offer, the styling. It's almost a no comparison game, right? Even if you look at the GTR, the new GTR, and I think Throttle House did a really nice video on this, on the two GTRs in terms of the original and the new one, and the price that the new GTR is commanding, where you can get yourself into a Ferrari, you can get yourself into an Aston Martin, you can get yourself into a lot more special cars. Why would you buy the GTR? Whereas when the GTR initially launched, you could buy the GTR and compete with those supercars, which is something you can't do now because the competition have caught up, right? And that's kind of for me what the new M3, M4 is that you can get into an M3 and M4 and performance-wise and modification-wise compete with a lot bigger cars. But again, I'm going down the rant of the GTR, which I wanted to keep for a separate discussion based on the replacement. So yeah, that was basically it. Just wanted to share the news on the MR2 and the Celica, and basically how I feel Toyota's way forward should be rolled out to the other Japanese car manufacturers in bringing everybody a bit more exciting vehicles. So that's my chat for the week. Hope everybody has a good week. Cheers.